In the heart of Europe, as the sun rose over the river Seine, a nation dreamed beyond its borders. France, with its poets, kings, and explorers, looked toward the distant horizons, seeking not only riches, but prestige, power, and the spread of its culture. This was the birth of the French Colonial Empire, an empire that would one day stretch across every corner of the world. The story begins in the early 16th century, when bold sailors like Jacques Cartier set sail across the Atlantic under the French flag. In the icy winds of the North Atlantic, Cartier reached the coasts of Canada, claiming vast lands in the name of King Francis I. This was the dawn of New France, and soon the fleur-de-lis waved proudly over regions that would become Quebec and Montreal. The French were not only conquerors, they were builders, traders, and dreamers. In the dense forests of North America, French settlers traded furs with indigenous peoples, forged alliances, and built forts that echoed with laughter, languages, and gunfire. Missionaries arrived too, carrying the cross of Christianity deep into the wilderness. But France's ambitions were not limited to the cold frontiers of Canada. Across the Caribbean, the empire grew rich from sugar, coffee, and the sweat of enslaved labor. Islands like Saint-Domingue, modern Haiti, became jewels in the French crown, dazzling but drenched in hardship. The wealth of the Caribbean made France one of Europe's greatest powers, even as the suffering of the enslaved grew unbearable. By the 18th century, France stood as a true global empire, with colonies in North America, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. But empires are fragile things, and history turned against them. The 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763, brought disaster. The British triumphed, and with the Treaty of Paris, France lost nearly all of its North American territories. The dream of New France vanished like smoke, yet the flame of ambition did not die. Under Napoleon Bonaparte, France dreamed again of empire, one that would rival even ancient Rome. But Napoleon's colonial hopes were crushed when a revolution erupted in Haiti. Toussaint Louverture and the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue rose up, fighting for freedom and defeating one of the world's most powerful armies. Haiti became the first independent Black republic in 1804, a stunning blow to French colonial pride. The loss of Haiti and the sale of Louisiana to the United States marked the end of France's first colonial empire. But a second empire was already forming, one that would last a century and shape the modern world. In the 19th century, French explorers and soldiers turned their gaze toward Africa and Asia. They seized Algeria in 1830, marking the beginning of a vast African empire. Soon, French flags rose over Tunisia, Senegal, Madagascar, and vast regions of West and Central Africa. The French claimed they brought civilization, education, and progress, but their rule was often harsh and exploitative. Villages were burned, rebellions crushed, and the local people forced to adopt French culture and language. Meanwhile, in Asia, France expanded into Indochina, modern-day Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Beautiful cities like Hanoi and Saigon blended French architecture with Eastern tradition. But beneath the elegance lay tension, as local resistance simmered. France sought to shape Asia in its image, yet the spirit of independence could not be erased. By the late 19th century, the French colonial empire was the second largest in the world, surpassed only by Britain's. From the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Southeast Asia, French influence spread through education, religion, and the arts. The French language became the bridge between continents, a lasting cultural thread woven across the globe. Then came the World Wars, and with them, both loyalty and rebellion. During World War I, hundreds of thousands of soldiers from French colonies fought and died in Europe's trenches. In World War II, the empire fractured. Some colonies sided with the Free French forces under Charles de Gaulle, others with the Vichy regime. Yet after the wars, a new spirit swept the world, the spirit of independence. One by one, colonies began to demand freedom. The wars had shown them that empires could bleed and fall. In 1954, after years of fierce fighting, Vietnam defeated France at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, ending French rule in Indochina. Soon after, Algeria fought its own bloody war of independence, and by 1962, France's once mighty empire had crumbled. But though the empire ended, its legacy endured. Across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, French culture, art, and language still flourish. Paris remains a center of influence, and many former colonies maintain close cultural and economic ties with France, a complicated relationship born from centuries of shared history. Today, when we hear the French language spoken in the markets of Senegal, the schools of Vietnam, or the streets of Quebec, we hear echoes of that vast empire. The story of the French Colonial Empire is not only one of conquest, but also of connection, of struggle, exchange, and transformation.